So this is our 7th video on this boy's life, and this one is called Parts of the Self. And, it's not sure, I'm not sure which of these to introduce in what order, but this could have gone first, I suppose. But, all the different aspects of self that are at play in this book are, you could go to town with those. So what a great time to introduce these. Again, the boys have no idea what a self is and no way to talk about it. So we're going to try to change that by giving them some entree into it that has some interesting traction with things about their life. So again, this is in the handbook. If you want to look at that page, there's even more aspects of the self that are there. And what a mess. Some of these things are partner nicely, and some of them are fight all the time, and these are all over the place for Jack. So, character is the capacity to give effective care. It's your virtues minus your vices. That's how we're defining it, right? Your personality is the way we're defining it is your ability to portray yourself, right? To dramatically enact yourself. And again, those two can go well together, or they could fight the whole time. The telos is yourself as the idea of yourself at your best that is operative in your life, versus, so there's sort of an operative telos, like what do you think your telos is, which is operative in your life. And then there's your actual telos, which you might be ignorant of, right? Which is what you could be if you actually everything went well for you. And that's a fascinating one for Jack, right? Because it's like he's holding out for his real telos, even though his actual one in the moment is really weak. And anyway, we've discussed that. Intellect, your ability to distinguish images of the world from actualities in the world. That's a very interesting one for Jack. Brand, how do people view you? Do people trust you as a dependable commodity? Do they look on you with favor? And then, narrative as the best true story you can tell about yourself. And what's a true story about yourself? That issue is really problematized, in this book. So there's so many passages that relate to aspects of self. They're all over the book. Here are some. My apologies for having the digital version. It would have taken me forever to type this in, and so the pages aren't going to be the same. I think these are roughly chronological, as all of them are in the book, as all of them are in this presentation, I think, in each segment. But all sorts of stuff about telos and having one and not having one, and performing versus doing, and wanting a good life but not knowing how to get it, and the whole amor propre move, and the different kinds of satisfaction that come from each of these aspects of selfhood. There they all are. I'll let you look at them, and you might have better ones. The last one in the list, I think, is one of the most interesting to me, right? Where he's looking at himself in a mirror when he's trying on clothes to go to boarding school, and here are these two people that are confronting each other, and it's sort of the fantasy and the reality, and he's hoping that the fantasy is convincing enough to reality, that reality is convincing enough to the fantasy to give it some hope that this might actually work, because he realizes he is incredibly character poor. And if the fantasy knew what a bogus character that he had to work with, he's worried that the fantasy wouldn't even perform the fantasy because it's such a losing cause. But then there's this very last one. There was a dash of swagger in his pose, something of the stage cavalier. And again, this is the image in the mirror. But his smile was friendly and hopeful. So you have this sense, right, that there is this empathetic person there who, if he had enough strength, would want to be compassionate, but he is at least, there's a benevolent being deep, 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 deep down, even though it's not really allowed to show itself very often. And so you've got this great combo, if it could work, right, of a kind of very, very good person who also has a kind of swag of personality. And, those are generally fun people to be around and make good friends and all that if you've got both of those. So there's sort of this little sign of hope. Obviously, the schooling doesn't go very well. And so, again, we've talked so much about Jack, but we really want to just mention Dwight here briefly as just what an incredible portrayal of somebody who has an ineffective character and who goes through the same process then of completely fantasizing about his own capacities because he doesn't have any capacities for whatever reason. And he just becomes this buffoon, and his personality just cannot carry that kind of load. So what a great portrayal of somebody whose character failures lead to life failure, just so obviously and directly, both for him and for Jack and Jack's mom, and it really is a sort of undeniable. It's so well done, and just the rage, right, of wanting so badly to be competent and faking it so much, but just the act can't work. And he even he fakes being virtuous, and he pours everybody drinks, and he goes and gets people in order to try to woo Jack's mom. But once he's got her, then he resorts to this violent person who is just taking out his frustrations at his own incompetence on everybody who's doomed to be around him. And again, just don't want to let that pass as do you see that, this is what it is here. So takeaways for this video: if you can define each aspect of selfhood below and be able to speak to how its health or lack of health in Jack affects his ability to thrive, you'll be in good shape. So his character, his personality, his telos, his intellect, his brand, and his narrative.